I mean, speaking of post-match conference, he was quite defensive of Mo Salah, saying that, and we want to try and be analytical in this. Previous games, we said we've not got enough of the ball to Salah. Salah had a lot of the ball and missed some really good chances. You can't really disguise that. Was there a bit of a worry that he had the ball, he had chances, but the lack of impact in this?
Yeah, he's just clearly not in good form, is he, at the moment? And, he's had the odd period throughout his Liverpool career where occasionally this has happened and it's not really lasted very long. So, you always hope that he's going to get out the other side of it. And I mean, it's probably a stupid bet, isn't it, to say that he's not, because he's just been so good for so long for Liverpool. And, we're seeing a bit of the loss of the pace or whatever, but the idea that he's going to lose the ability to put the ball in the goal, I find that really hard to believe. So, he just wasn't his day. I'd still say that chance he creates for Isak is very, very presentable, and that's a moment of pure quality. So he's still got it up his sleeve. But yeah, I'd say the bigger thing over the course of the season is the fact that not getting the ball to him enough. But then you throw in a game like this on top of it, and then the narrative's like, well, actually, maybe he's just rubbish now. Whereas again, I think the bigger problem is getting the ball to him. If you can do that more over the course of the season, it will make Liverpool better. And then, yes, you can have a game like this where absolutely nothing works for him or very little works for him. But again, do we want to get into the point where 6 months after people were saying that FSG should go if they don't sign him up to a contract, they're now saying he should absolutely be dropped? I mean, it's just kind of whiplash from the speed with which people change direction on this stuff. So, he had no doubt, and he didn't have a good game against Chelsea. There's been games he's had for Liverpool, multiple games for Liverpool. He's not been very good. But if they fix their issues and build up and get the ball to him, then you back him to have a good season overall, don't you? And I can see why the manager shields him, because what's the point in going in on him when he knows that 99% of his problems this season have been a lack of touches on the ball rather than anything else, and that these poor performance like this, it very rarely lasts.
Yeah, you hope not, because, I mean, look at those stats, really. Not a single duel, not a single take on, and fewest touches of any outfield player.
There's a comment there, actually, which I think is an interesting one, and I don't think it's really on the agenda, but I want to kind of talk about it a bit as well, is talk about Mo Salah not tracking back as well, which is a fair point. Obviously, Chelsea talk about it as the key to their winning goal, and it is an issue. And I've seen so much talk this week, very similarly to the issues that Liverpool have got in build-up, is that we kind of get these, tactical experts on Twitter talking about Liverpool's out-of-possession structure. And I really have to say, I dislike the way that people talk about this stuff who don't work within football, because I just think it's so ignorant of the reality. So when you read these big monster threads about how Liverpool's out-of-possession structure is poor and it has issues, and that Salah doesn't track back, and so you can be instantly in down his side, and all these issues that's caused by this kind of the way that they defend out of possession, you can be forgiven for getting to the end of one of those threads and thinking, well, why doesn't the manager just institute a better out of possession structure than that one? Well, because it doesn't exist. So the reason that they do the things, all the managers, every single out of possession structure that you have is a trade-off. There's a weakness in every one, because football is a game of numbers, and they can outnumber you here or there, and you basically have to pick your poison. So the out-of-possession structure that Liverpool lose, it allows Salah to cheat. It isn't as attentive pressing down the right-hand side, or the right-hand side of Liverpool's shape, because that's the trade-off. And the trade-off you get is, 57 goals and assists last season? Now, obviously, the moment that stops and you're not getting that from Salah in possession, then your out-of-possession structure, you're like, oh my God, this is awful, this isn't working. But we have to start talking about these things as trade-offs rather than... Because if there was one perfect out-of-possession structure, every club would use it, every team would use it. Whereas what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, this gives me the most benefits on the attacking side and the least downside on the defensive side.
Yeah. Let's
start talking about it like that, rather than talking about it like Arne Slot is an idiot who doesn't know what he's doing, and he doesn't know where the weaknesses are, and he can't cover them up. It's like, come on. These people are smarter than this. They know more about football than you or I have ever forgotten. So it's just absolutely crazy the way it kind of gets talked about for me, really. And yeah, I think the trade-offs at the moment aren't working in Liverpool's favour. There's no doubt about that. That's how you lose 3 games on the bounce. But if you get certain things right, if some of these coaching aspects, if Bradley's not picking up a yellow card immediately when the whistle starts, if Kirkes starts to open his body shape up and Liverpool can be a little bit better in progressing the ball, and Konate's not treating it like it's a bomb, if these improvements can start to make Liverpool look better in possession, and by the way, in a game like this against Chelsea, they finish off the chances they create, which were better than Chelsea's in the overall thing of the game, then then the out of possession structure will start to look better. So it's just trade-offs. We can't talk about it like it's an issue that the manager's too stupid to solve or whatever. It's you've just got to accept that there are trade-offs there.
There is trade-offs, and I agree. And they say Salah had chances. I think the one thing that I saw in this, and I was counting them, there was 5 times by the first set of subs where we do the big changes in about the 53rd minute. Sanchez just kept throwing it over Salah, so Cucurella could get down the left. And I'm thinking, why are we not reacting to that? Because Cucurella or whoever just travels 50 yards and they're on us. It's like someone's got to sort of realise, or a bit of on the field management there as well.
You're right. And I guess, again, one of the reasons you kind of go, well, it's not because Slot's not seeing that, because how good has he been at in-game changes over the course of his Liverpool career? I mean, how many games did Liverpool win in the second half last season because he tweaked something? I think he's seeing it, but he's also going, right, I don't like that, because what that does then is it drags Gravenberch out, and then all of a sudden there's a big gap in the middle of our midfield. It's quite easy to play through. But Chelsea weren't creating in terms of, their expected goals up until the winner is it's below 0.7. So he's going, they're getting him areas, and I don't like it. I don't want it to happen. But, I'm kind of okay with it if we can restrict him in this way, and the chances they're getting are not absolutely glorious. And there's a chance that I get Mo in and he scores. And they did get Mo in. He just didn't score, So he was kind of accepting that trade-off, but then Liverpool didn't get the goals. And then at the end, the trade-off, it just worked in Chelsea's favour. And you just kind of like, all football is a gamble in that sense all the time, and I just don't think we acknowledge that enough. But and a lot of those tight margins went for him last season, and at the moment, just this week specifically, the trade-offs aren't going for him. Now, maybe it'll be a case that this is a season where that happens, by the way, and you'll kind of think, I have to change it. This, Salah's not getting anywhere near the goals to make the trade-off worth it. I'm going to change our out of possession structure. I might give Mo a few more games off than I generally do. Maybe that's where we'll end up. But it's very early to say that, I would say. But you're right. Seeing that problem consistently, you're like, oh, fix it. But he's like, maybe Cucurella leaving his position all the time will give me something. And he kind of nearly did, you know what I mean? It's so difficult for managers. And it really, in the end, Liverpool fall on the bad side of that in this game specifically, don't they?
Yeah, and it's true. People will ignore, and you try and balance it all. People will ignore that Salah Trevea when Isak should really hit the target for me and score. It is where he's got a bit of space on the left. The chance that, it's only 20, 30 seconds, I think, into the second half, but Salah's in and Cucurella's come from that position originally. So, again, It's just moments, innit? It's just literally moments, but they all went against us. But the one thing, and honestly, this was the only time I've shouted at the TV recently, but I've got to say it because you mentioned Slot, so good, in in-game management. The Endo sub, for all the things we needed, I was like, this game is in the balance, and we're just starting to lose a bit of control of possession. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe Gomez to right back if Max Tyre brings a Bosley in when I saw Matt go up. Or I was thinking, Gakpo looks spent. Chiesa, this is made for him. No one had Endo coming on in the 87th minute or whatever it is, surely.
Yeah, but then, you know what? And I feel like I'm offering mitigation all the time, but I genuinely always believe it's there. So I always try and view it as kind of like, what is the manager thinking in this moment? And I think what he's thinking is, we've lost 2 on the bounce, a point away against Chelsea, keeps us up there. It's not been a perfect game by any means. We've got problems we need to solve. maybe we just take the point here from this difficult away game and get out of there. And you think back to last season at the very start, it became a meme, didn't it? If Endo comes on, the game's over. And Liverpool were winning a lot of those games 1-0 at the time. I think about him coming on at Crystal Palace and helping see that one out, and then that became kind of a consistent job he was given. And by and large, he did help Liverpool do that. You can't think of many moments where he kind of threw Leeds away with him on the pitch last season. When he was coming on for those final 5 minutes. So I think he's thinking, Chelsea may be going to push a bit harder here. It's at home, get Endo on. But obviously the problem is Endo comes on and is poor and can't keep the ball. And, what he needed was calmness in possession rather than someone who was just getting rid. So it didn't work. And it worked, it worked against Liverpool really, because he was consistently kind of giving the ball back to Chelsea really. So it was a poor sub in that regard. But it's a sub that works so many times for Liverpool, and I don't think he kind of would have gone to Endo. I think he would have gone another attacker if he hadn't lost the previous two, and that's of course the irony then, is it leads you to losing 3 on the bounce. So a poor decision, and one I reckon he probably regrets definitely regrets with hindsight, but equally I can kind of sympathise with his mindset in that moment. But it just wasn't the appropriate sub really, and it went badly wrong for Liverpool, didn't it?
It just felt as well, because he still had a chance, because he had that warning in it. I think it was about the 91st minute. Do you remember when Fernandes gets in at the back post because the Boslai's kind of switched off a bit before the goal, and you just thought, like, there's still a chance to change this. But I get people will talk shoulda, woulda, coulda. So, there is a lot to take from that one. And in terms of sort of the other bits that are coming, and I really want to get into some off-the-field stuff that we're hearing at the moment as well. Everyone is now realising we're primed for the picking. You've got Jamie Carragher talking about Liverpool going end-to-end basketball style. You've got Wayne Rooney saying that Mo Salah, looks lost, questioning his work ethic. Chris Sutton saying about the back. We're just easy pickings a little bit in analysis at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. To be fair, I mean, probably some of these pundits who are kind of having a pop at Liverpool have probably seen what supporters are saying, and I think they've been as bad as anyone for me, really. And in terms of just completely turning on a team that was, became champions not very long ago. So that's kind of surprised me, to be honest. But yeah, I think if you top of you're a top side and you side that won the league last season, and then things change and your fortune change, you are always there to be shot at a little bit. So. That's completely to be expected, and having a week where you lose 3 on the bounce is really poor, isn't it? So it's not something you just expect that you're going to get criticism in those situations, and people are going to turn maybe small problems into big ones and start to look if there's an overarching theme that they can lay it all at the door of, rather than a series of small problems that you've got to work your way through. But that's to kind of be expected from that's punditry, and I think Liverpool are deserving of criticism, by the way. So I don't think they can kind of be absolutely disappointed by that. I think what they could be disappointed by is the speed with which some of the kind of fans on social media have maybe turned on them. But it's pundits' jobs to find problems, and Liverpool have got like I say, got quite a few of those at the moment. So I think that's totally fair, really.
Yeah, there's plenty of material being provided, and you did mention about people needing to come together. VVD had a bit of I won't call it a rallying cry, but a message that saying, with everything that's going on and everything that's happened during the summer, we do need to come together. And almost going ahead a little bit, is a game against United at home on Super Sunday maybe a good tonic for when we all come back together?
I think it's the perfect game, because I think United aren't very good. The atmosphere will be brilliant. Liverpool have played well at times this season. I know everybody likes to talk like they haven't. Like there's been games where can we just to quickly go through those, by the way, because there's so much talk about that Liverpool have been absolutely dreadful this season from start to finish, and that the last minute winners were coming at the end of games where they got completely battered. I mean, we have to knock that myth down, by the way. This is why I sort of lean on the side of optimism that been some really good performances in there. I mean, I thought Bournemouth at home, first game of the season, they get hit by those 2 counter-attacks. And aside from that, are pretty brilliant in the game. To score 4 against Bournemouth, by the way, look at how good they are. Look at how good they are. Bournemouth get those 2 counters, and that kind of turns it into, against Arsenal, didn't give a thing away. Against Burnley, I thought they just couldn't break that low block down, but they were completely in control of that game from start to finish. Atletico Madrid, for me, the performance of the season so far. First half against Everton, really, really good. And then, we've seen a dip since then, but I still think second half against Palace, I will, absolutely hang my hat on that. Liverpool were fantastic in that second half against Palace, took them apart in a way that very few sides have recently. And then, even Chelsea, if you're coming out of a game where you've lost and it's kind of the expected goals are what they were in that game, which is 1 versus 1.95, you've been fairly unlucky to lose that game, I would say, on the balance of the chances. So there are kind of some good things in there, and I think what Liverpool need to do now is put it all together, and they need to fix those little issues about the build up and the out of possession, and maybe some of these things aren't going to happen quickly, and it's going to take a little time. But if you can kind of build the plane while you're flying it, as Brendan Rodgers said, and you can kind of fix an issue every week, and you'll slowly get there. But I think a game like Manchester United, everyone's going to be completely focused. Liverpool have been good at Anfield, generally speaking. Playing away is really difficult, and they played some difficult away games as well, by the way. I think that's another point I want to make. It's so much on my mind over this run. Is like Liverpool's fixture list has been really difficult, by the way. So, and a couple of those defeats have only come in the very last minute. So, a home game against Manchester United, who I still think got massive issues. It is perfect, really, to just get straight back after the international break, get everyone back into it, get everyone back on side, get a good result, and hopefully put in kind of one of the, the most complete performance of the season, because that's what we're waiting for. I thought Atletico was it, really, except those kind of 2 deflected goals. If you can just have a really solid win against United, I think everyone will feel a lot better, and maybe some of the kind of criticisms will calm down a little bit.
I mean, you mentioned about the fixtures. This seems to be a bit of a media myth for me, almost sort of staring into your industry when I look at it. That when I keep hearing that Arsenal have had the hardest start, but I'm seeing Arsenal have played Leeds at home and West Ham. And let's be honest, we'd have taken one of those than Chelsea away after the week we had. We'd have taken one of those home games instead. Whereas we have played like Bournemouth, who are right up there having a great season. Look at how well Crystal Palace are going. Even Arsenal, we trade off against each other. Arsenal going away to Old Trafford. I mean, United have been honking. Isn't it just a myth they've had the easier start fixture-wise?
Yes, I can tell you now, I worked it out last night, and I don't want to give the numbers away because I'm going to put it in a piece I'm writing later. Liverpool have had the more difficult start. They've played teams that are on average higher up the table currently. So Liverpool haven't had, as you say, a West Ham at home or a Leeds at home. They haven't had a kind fixture like that. The closest Liverpool have had, obviously, is Burnley away. Burnley, who, by the way, play the most nightmarish low block of all time in a game that they hadn't lost at home for over a year, had they? And it was their first big home game having been promoted. So they were well up for it. And that's obviously the lowest team they've faced. And the next lowest was Newcastle United, who are currently 11th. It was at Newcastle, which is a very difficult place to go generally. And then with everything else that was going on around that game and how much they wanted to win it, which added difficulty 100%. So Liverpool have had a more difficult start. That is categorically true on the basis of where these clubs are in the Premier League table at the moment. So, I accept Arsenal have not had an easy start. Got some really tough fixtures in there. But Liverpool have had a more difficult start, and that's just facts.